guys and girls, our learning intention today is that we are practicing life science questions to prepare for the ATLAS summative testing. And our success criteria is that we will be able to confidently answer life science questions found in the ATLAS test question bank, or we will know what we need more practice with in order to be successful. Aurora, I'm not surprised. You're always on top of your work. I love it. Okay, well, guys, what we're doing, this is a class kick. This is on your plan. We're going to kind of work on it together throughout the week. But today we're only going to work on one question. So those of you that have worked ahead, you rock. But if you want to just make sure that your answers are correct or all of that, that will be just fine. Okay. So I'll give you guys the link. This is the class kick link. Oops, wrong one. We found the wrong link. Da, da, da. This is the actual link to the class kick. It is on your plan. You do not have to open it right now, unless you just want to, but you can totally wait and do it throughout class and do it while we're working together, or you can just watch my screen. I know our internets are sometimes a little easier on us if we do that. So as we kick off our lesson today, you guys know our word of the month is courage. So I want you guys to take a second and tell me something that made you feel courageous, or someone that you think is the most courageous person of all time and why they are. You can put it in the chat. If you have your class kick open, you can put it in your class kick, or you can put it on the mic. We'll take about 2 minutes to do this. For me, being courageous is whenever I get on a roller coaster, because it scares me. Oh, on a trampoline. Yeah, that's a good one, Aurora. I don't think I've done that to this day. Love it. Ryder.
You know.
What's up, Ryder?
I know a good one.
Tell me.
Going near a deadly animal.
Oh, yeah. Well, we probably shouldn't do that anyway, yeah?
Yeah, but if there was like glass
like
near it.
A partition, yeah, like a barrier between us. Now that would be okay. Yeah, I'd still be a little nervous.
Yeah.
Maxwell, the Ferris wheel, I get that, my man. I've never been on a Ferris wheel, and I don't think I probably ever will. It's too high for me. Spiders and heights, those are my downfalls. I love it. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for sharing that. Guys, I love this quote. It says, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day that saying, I will try again tomorrow. Guys, getting up from a failure, moving on, doing it again, that is courage. Okay. Taking chances. I bet, Maxwell. Zane, I like that too. All right, guys. Well, let's take a look at our social contract really quickly, and then we're going to get started. Social contract. We are a team, and we respect each other. We listen. We put in max effort. We celebrate good things, and we show kindness. All right. Give me an emoji reaction. How are you feeling we do with our social contract? If there's anything we should improve on, you let me know. You can put it in the chat in your class kick as well if you are opening that, or if you have that open. All right, love it. Thank you, guys. All right, so we're on question 4, or not question 4, we're on slide 4, question 1. And like I said, guys, this is what we are going to do today. We're going to work on this throughout the week until we get through some of these questions. But question 1 is where we're going to focus. How many many of you guys remember taking the Atlas test last year for science? The Atlas portion of the Atlas. The science portion of Atlas. I couldn't get that out. Is there anything about that test that stands out to you?
I don't even remember it.
You don't?
No.
Well, from my kiddos, they said that the questions were extremely long for each question. And I don't think they're wrong on that, because question 1 here, this whole question, that's just one question. And this one is kind of short in the Atlas test bank. Okay. Now it looks really long, but honestly, it's not that bad, y'all. When you first look at it, it seems overwhelming, or it did to me, and I'm a teacher. But you guys know I don't take tests well. And even as a teacher, knowing that I was making the test, this is still, it still kind of gets in my head that it's a test, okay? So just know it's okay to feel overwhelmed at first, but just take a step back and look at what it's asking you and look at the information that it's giving you. All right? Okay. So we're going to do that right now, okay? So let's read. It says bird feather colors vary based on the amount of melanin they have. Melanocytes are cells found in the bird's skin. So I'm just gonna, because I just want to make sure I highlight that, because I feel like that might be important, that we're talking about birds. Let me make that a little bigger. Okay, we're talking about birds, and we're talking that melanocytes are cells. Okay, that helps me remember. Okay. And I highlighted or I circled under here bird because we know there's plant cells and we know there's animal cells, right? And we know that there are different things that a plant cell has that an animal cell has. So that's why we know this is going to be for an animal cell. All right, so the melanosome is an organelle, so that's important. Melanosome is an organelle found in melanocytes. And then it says this is where melanin is produced. The melanin is then transferred. The word then means next. So next it's going to be transferred to feather follicles to produce the color. Okay, and then here is your here's your figure of the melanocyte. This is the cell. So you have a cell membrane, you have the melanosome, mitochondria, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Now, let me get my pen back. Okay. So guys, remember that the cell membrane, does anybody remember what the cell membrane does for a cell? Can anybody tell me what the cell membrane does for a cell, just so we can remember? We'll have to know. Ryder?
The cell membrane is like some sort of like outer shell of it.
It is like the shell of it, and it allows what? What does it allow to happen? Do you remember? Well, all the pieces are important to the cell, Maxwell, all the organelles. So the cell membrane, it's been a little while since we looked at this, so it's okay if you don't remember. That's why we're reviewing. So the cell membrane, guys, remember, it allows what enters and what leaves the cell, okay? So we can make a note, and it's a control. It controls, right? It controls what enters, pretend that says enters, and what leaves the cell. Okay? Cell membrane enters and leaves. The melanosome, we know that it is the organelle and it helps produce the color. Okay? Mitochondria. Does anybody remember what the mitochondria does? Aiden?
It is the powerhouse of the cell. It turns
That's right.
energy into ATP.
You got it, my man. It is the power, if I could write this well enough, powerhouse of the cell, which means it produces all of the energy to make things happen. Okay. Well, what about the nucleus? Does anybody remember what the nucleus is? We call it the blank of the cell because it, help me out, y'all. Aiden?
The nucleus is the control center of the cell. It
That's
basically manages the entire cell.
Yes, exactly. It is like the brain of the cell, isn't it? It tells the cell what it tells every other organelle what it needs to do. Okay, so it's the brain. Not the Brian, but the brain. I always want to put my I before my A sometimes. All right. So the cytoplasm, remember that's just that jelly-like stuff inside there that kind of holds the organelles in place and lets them float around in it. Okay. It's the brain. So now every time you think about the nucleus, you can think it's brain, but it's the brain. Maybe that'll stick with you. You're welcome, Barrett. All right. So now that we kind of went over that, now that we went over that, we have our sentences here. And we're like, okay, well, what are those sentences? What's the point of those, right? Well, down here, we have this table. And in the actual Atlas portal, it has a little pencil here where you have to click on this and then click up here and pick your answer between these three or these 5 sentences to fill out this chart. Well, because we're doing it in Classkick, we are just simply going to draw an arrow or write the number that corresponds with the sentence that goes here, okay? Now make sure you guys are paying close attention because this is where things can get a little tricky. All right, so table 1, role of melanocytes in feather color. This is going through the steps. So step 1, the very first thing that needs to happen, and then it's going to say the very next thing, and we'll put that here. Then it tells us melanin is produced inside the cell, and then we will need to know what the last thing is, and we'll put it here. So it really tells us up here, if we look at this sentence, or this little paragraph, it tells us the steps. All right. We just have to really kind of read between the lines. So let's look at our answer options. The first option says light energy is absorbed by the cell. Guys, tell me what it is about that sentence that makes no sense to why it would be even an option. This is an animal cell, right? Zane, exactly, honey. And does light energy have anything to do with an animal cell? Remember, light energy comes from the sun. Yeah, animal cells don't need the sun to make their food for energy, do they? Okay, so this should not even be considered. Light energy, that would be if we were talking about a plant cell. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Ryder, I see you're shaking your head no. Okay, that doesn't make sense, does it? I love it. Good job, guys. All right. The second option says that melanin is transported out of the cell. Well, let's go up here and look at our sentence. The very last sentence up here, it says the melanin is then transferred. Okay, then transferred. So I don't think that's going to be the first thing that we're going to put here, right? Let's look up here and see what the first thing is, though. It says that melanosome is an organelle found in the melanocyte. This is where melanin is produced. All right, so we need to figure out the first part of being produced, okay? Maxwell, you're absolutely correct, honey. So, guys, if you remember, we start with the brain, right? Or the Brian. We start with the Brian brain. And the nucleus is telling the organelles what they need to do. So which of these sentences would be what the nucleus is getting started with the organelles to do? 2, 3, 4, or 5? Carmelo, absolutely. Kobe, yes, you can. Maxwell, great. Great. Good job, guys. Yes. So, guys, remember the nucleus tells Brian and the organelles what to do, right? So it's giving instructions for the melanin production to be carried out. Okay. So number 5 is going to go right here. Okay. Does everybody understand how we come up with that idea, that answer? All right, perfect. All right. So what happens next? Okay, so the nucleus has told the organelles that it needs to produce the melanin. So what's going to happen next? Maxwell, you are on it today, my man. Zane, you're on it too. Great. You guys are killing this. Good job. Okay, so yes, absolutely. The next part is going to be that energy is produced to synthesize the melanin. Guys, we know that mitochondria is our powerhouse that makes that energy, right? So we know that 3 is going to go here. So the nucleus has told the mitochondria to make the melanin. After that, the melanin is produced inside the cell. And then if we come up here and we look, it says this is where the melanin is produced. And then the last sentence says the melanin is then transferred to the feather follicles to produce color. So what is going to be my last option, last sentence that goes here? Harper, Zane, Maxwell, y'all are on top of it. Aurora on top of it. Thank you to everybody who put in the chat. You guys are doing this. You guys are just excelling. This is great. Yes. So then the melanin is transported out of the cell in order, oops, that's a weird too, in order to make the feather color occur, okay? So we know that the cell membrane is responsible for that, right? Because it controls what enters and leaves the cell. How are you guys feeling about this part? Give me a emoji reaction. How do you feel about being able to answer this if you were to do it on your own? Awesome. I love it, Maxwell. Love it, you guys. Wonderful. That makes me super happy. But if you're still struggling a little bit, hey, that's okay. That's why we're doing this. All right. So the second part of this question is this table 2 here. It says that organelles in each step of process, okay? So then it says step 1, the blank and the blank. And it's basically going through this, but down here, and putting in the organelles as they are being used. So as long as we knew this and we were able to do this correctly, we've got this. Okay. So we know that this right here, the first step was instructions for melanin production carried out. So what does that go with over here? Nucleus,
The nucleus.
cell. Which one?
The nucleus.
You got it, dude. We go with Brian here. Nucleus. Because the nucleus is telling the instructions, and then what's going to happen? And then the what produces that by using energy? Not the cytoplasm, but the powerhouse of the cell. Yes, Zane, good job. Good job, Barrett.
It was kind of hard for me to like figure out how to say it.
Yeah, that's fine. That is just fine. Yes, you're absolutely right, you guys. Yes, yes, yes. The nucleus tells the mitochondria to make the melosome. So the melosome then makes it, and then for it to enter and exit the cell, remember the last part is it is exiting or transported out of the cell. So is that the cytoplasm or the cell membrane? Good job, Barrett. What is it, you guys? Just because one person answered doesn't mean you shouldn't. Show me how smart you are. Show me you got it. Yes. Love it. Yes, yes, yes. You guys are so great. Perfect. All right, guys. So we are going to pause there. You guys, like I said, you have a copy of this. You can go in and play with it, mess with it, anything you want. You don't have to work ahead, but you can if you want to, okay? We're going to come back to this on Wednesday. Let me go ahead and get.
I was actually doing it with you.
I love that. That's perfect. And that was totally fine. That's great. Okay, so guys, take about 30 seconds and I want you to tell me something that you have learned or something that you have a question about. You can put it in the mic, you can put it in the chat, you can say it on the mic, or you can just simply think it to yourself. Yes, organized.